Is this the beginning of the end for Apple? This tech titan has dominated for decades, but alarming new signs show Apple may have finally lost its shine. Welcome back for another edition of InvestMinder. In today's deep dive video, we'll be analyzing some alarming signs coming out of Apple. This tech legend has dominated headlines for decades, but several data points suggest Apple may have finally lost its luster. Apple just released its latest earnings, and there are shocking red flags that demand a closer look. Revenue squeaked out a measly 2% gain, a snail's pace by Apple's standards. But even more terrifying is what we see happening in China. This key market accounted for over 17% of Apple's sales, but revenue there plunged by 13% last quarter. Why does China matter so much? Well, China represents over 1 billion potential iPhone customers for Apple. That's more than 3 times as big as the US market. Winning over China's enormous middle class is mission critical to Apple's growth. Losing share there cripples Apple's expansion plans. Research shows they now lag 4 local competitors selling smartphones tailored to Chinese consumers. Names like Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi used to be unknowns, but are now eating Apple's lunch. And China's rising stars aren't just names on a spreadsheet. Walk the gleaming shopping districts of Shanghai or Shenzhen, and you'll see sophisticated Chinese consumers proudly flaunting these brands' sleek designs and nifty features. While Apple tries to fend them off, other headwinds are battering growth too. Inflations and supply chain turmoil have hobbled sales and left Apple scrambling to control costs. Meanwhile, investors have lost patience. The stock has gone practically nowhere in the past year, even as rivals like Meta and Nvidia notch huge gains. Apple still has enviable strengths that shouldn't be underestimated. Its brand remains beloved by millions, and its track record of game-changing innovation is unmatched in consumer tech. But the question is, can Apple rely on its reputation and past triumphs to power its future growth? Or will intensifying competition and market saturation slowly erode Apple's dominance? There are reasonable arguments on both sides. Yes, Apple faces its toughest competitive environment in China as nimble local brands leverage national pride and cut-rate pricing to attack the iPhone's lofty market share. But Apple has faced down challengers before. Remember when analysts freaked out about Samsung possibly dethroning them? Yet Apple weathered the storm, then came roaring back, and it's shown skill competing in the premium segment in categories like laptops and tablets against rivals gunning for the top. Maybe in smartphones too, Apple can stem the tide by doubling down on premium iPhones packed with Apple's unmatched proprietary chip technology. But relying on a shrinking wealthy niche while ceding ground to upstarts in the massive middle market might cap Apple's upside, limiting it to mere single-digit growth rates. Is that bleak fate sealed? Well, Apple still has a few cards yet to play. Rumors swirl of an upcoming augmented reality headset that could position Apple on the cutting edge again. And their elephantine cash stockpile means they can afford to place hugely disruptive bets. But innovation can't be willed into existence, and not every moonshot succeeds. So, while I'd never fully count out Cook and his team, the data suggests Apple faces real hurdles if it wants to return to its past peak growth glory. I'll have more analysis on whether Apple can recharge expansion soon. But if these doubts about Apple festering in your mind, maybe it's time we also look at some up-and-comers poised to deliver big growth this decade no matter what. That's why in my last video called Top 10 Stocks That Will 10x This Decade, I revealed disruptors ready to capture tomorrow's enormous opportunities. Check out that video next for the full scoop on what rising stars could supercharge your portfolio with 1,000% returns if you get positioned in them early.